to be with you all here this morning, to be invited to be your guest preacher and celebrant. You might have noticed I am a Lutheran, which means I am a very close cousin in the family of Christ. We tie our knots a little differently. Maybe I do the choreography just a teeny bit differently, but it is a joy to be here with you all today and to be with our close cousins in the family of Christ. I want to tell you all before I even start my sermon that God loves you so much. No matter what you have done in your life, no matter who you are, no matter what has happened to you, God's love is with you and in you and for you. Because sometimes I mess up my sermons, or sometimes I say something that's really scandalous and you turn off your brain. So it happens. Like, I'm a guest preacher. I know this happens. Sometimes people stop listening to me, so in case you stop listening, because I mess up or say something scandalous, you've already heard that God loves you and is with you and for you, right? Alright. So, just forget. You know, if I say something, you're like, well, she did tell me God loves me, right? Ascension Day, and this story about Jesus going up, I really love it. It's not like my favorite of all the liturgical holidays. Like my own personal spirituality is much more about Advent, that like longing for God to come and fix the world and be present with us, or like Pentecost, or the fire of the disrupting spirit, like that's my favorite stuff. But Ascension has really good theological questions as far as I'm concerned. And I'm a theology nerd, so I like to wander into the important stuff about God through those theological questions. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing today. And the most obvious one of these theological questions that I bet you all have already thought about a little bit before, probably many of you have thought a lot about before, is like, why up? Where's God? Right? Where do we locate God? And we have this story where Jesus goes up, and it's described literally towards the clouds, right, to go and be with God. And we even have in our gospel reading the prayer from Jesus, where it says that Jesus looked up to talk to God, right? Sometimes in our liturgical churches we act like God is right behind that wall. Right? Like, you have to face that way if you want to talk to God. I mean, God is behind that wall, but not only there, right? Sometimes we look down to pray, right? Is God down? Where is God? Like, what's going on? Where is God? Why do we... And there is something about up, you know? We know that the direction up isn't literally where God is, right? There's clouds and atmosphere and space and stars, and it's not like right above the clouds God is there. Most of us know that's not literally true, but there's still something about the way that we build our sanctuaries to have space up there, right? Like that feels like something when there's space up there above our heads, or sometimes when we're out in the mountains, there's a reason that mountains people have experiences on, and you're looking out and there's all this space. This idea that something about that feeling that we get about up and space is connected to God for us in some way. But there's also these men that say, why are you looking up? Why are you looking up? Go back and pray together. Go back and pray together. But I bet you guys have thought about that theological question before. The other one that I really, really like to struggle with on this day is what about Jesus' body when he goes to be with God? Right? So we know, and it's really important to us theologically, that when Jesus was on earth, he walked around in a real body, right? That ate and sweat when it got hot, and did all the weird things that our bodies did, do, right? Like all the weird things our bodies do, Jesus' body did too. And that Jesus' body like literally touched people, and it was real, and it was not imaginary, and it was not just like some spiritual mirage, but a real body, right? So where did Jesus' body go when he goes to be with God? And in what way does Jesus still have a body now that he's ascended up to God? Another theological question that we like to think about is like, in what ways were the particularities of Jesus' body still with God? So a less fancy way to ask that would be one of my seminary classmates asked a professor, why do we still use the pronoun he when we're talking about Jesus ascended to heaven, right? So we know that God doesn't have, like the whole Trinity doesn't have a physical body in the same way, so it doesn't have gender in the same way, so it doesn't have sexuality or ethnicity or ability or disability or all of those things in quite the same way that Jesus on earth did, but so Jesus ascended. Does Jesus still have that stuff? And my professor said, remember the thing where I said I say really scandalous questions things, right? So if you know that you're about to be scandalized, don't listen for the next 30 seconds. Think about something else and come back to me in 30 seconds. If you like to be scandalized, listen now. So my professor said, that's a really good question. He said, when the disciples were standing there looking up, and Jesus was going up, and Jesus had a robe on, what did they see when they looked up on Jesus' robe? What was wear stuff under those robes. Okay, if you're done, you can come back now. If you get scandalized, you can come back. I'm done with that. But in what ways does Jesus still have those parts of being human now that he's ascended to God? And I don't know the answer to that question. I'm going to pose theological questions that I don't know the answer to. But we also think, in what ways did Jesus have those particular parts about being human, and not just that, but like personality before Jesus came to be on earth, right? So Jesus says, especially in the Gospel of John, that he pre-existed being born in Bethlehem, right? So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and then the Word became flesh. So something about that second part of the Trinity existed before Jesus came on earth in a body, right? Like, what was that? What was it like? And what's it like now? So much of our personality and who we are is from our lives, right? So who was Jesus before then? So much of our personality is from genetics and DNA, and Jesus didn't have that stuff before he came to be on earth. Or a lot of our personality is about who raised us. You know, Jesus' personality came from the fact that he was raised by Mary, this radical woman who says these words from God, and Joseph, who was faithful in ways that we can't even comprehend. Jesus was raised by them, though Jesus on earth, right? He got his personality from that. He got his taste buds from what he ate as a kid. He got, what made him angry and what made him sad and all of that stuff from the way that he lived on earth. That's what it means to be fully human, right? So what part of that is with God now, and how does that work? And here's why I think that's an interesting question. I mean, it's an interesting question for those of us who are theological nerds, but why is it interesting for us as people of faith living together? And I think one of the reasons it's interesting is what does it mean to be fully human? What does it mean that God put on human body? What does it mean about God in our bodies, right? And I think it's interesting to think about because there's no such thing as a generic human. Right? Jesus couldn't become a generic human. Jesus had to become, you can't just, humans have stuff. We have gender. Most of us, every once in a while there'll be a human who says they don't. Humans have ethnicity, right? Humans have culture. Humans have family dynamics. Humans have things that make us different than each other, and Jesus couldn't be just a generic human. He had to be a particular human, right? We call this the scandal of particularity. Jesus had to be a very particular human. And what does that mean for those of us who have different particularities? Like, none of us are first century Palestinian Jews, right? All of us have had different experiences than Jesus. Jesus never had road rage. I'm sure that there were times that the pathways got kind of crowded, but that's really different than things that we feel when we're driving around in cars or riding buses, right? Jesus just didn't have that feeling. Jesus just didn't have the feeling of getting stuck inside an iPhone and being like, oh my goodness, it's been 3 hours and all I've done is look at my phone. Like, that was not a thing that Jesus experienced. So how does he connect to our experiences that are a little different? Or, to take it more seriously, one of my friends who really struggles with mental health said, if Jesus took on our full humanity and suffered with us, did Jesus ever have depression? And he said, I'd really like to know that Jesus felt depressed sometimes. That would really help me in my faith walk if I knew that sometimes Jesus got depressed with me. And it was really comforting for him that his answer was, yeah, Jesus felt depression like I did. And I think that's probably true. If I read Scripture, I think that Jesus was a person who sometimes experienced depression. But I also think there are things about my life that are really important to my faith life that there's no way Jesus experienced. Like, I experienced gender oppression and sexism, and Jesus didn't, right? He had other ways that people discriminated against him. He was an ethnicity that people discriminated against, but Jesus didn't know what it was like, or didn't experience in his body in the same way, being on earth and having people look at him and saying, you don't count because you're a woman, or you don't get to get angry like men do, or you have to be nice all the time. Well, Jesus didn't experience that. And there's a part of me that's like, that's a really important part of the way I walk around on earth, that I want to know that Jesus experienced. So what's Jesus like now, up there in heaven? Is Jesus, with God, like up there, still in a male body, associating with humans, but not having the same experiences? To me, what's that like? And here's what I get from these readings, is that these two questions are connected. Because where God is now is in the humans that walk around, in the particularity of our own lives. And that's why Jesus went up to heaven, whatever up to heaven means. Because the reason that Jesus ascended was that the Holy Spirit could be in each body. Right? Because they're looking up, they're like, Jesus is up there, and all of a sudden there's men beside them in white robes. Like humans, right? Humans in white robes saying, hey, stop looking up there. Listen to the words I'm saying. Go back and pray with each other. And then it lists very particular human beings with all of their different life experiences and different genders and different ethnicities and different bodies and different abilities and disabilities, and who got together and prayed with each other. And that's where the Spirit is. And Jesus says, when I go up there, the Spirit and the power and the glory and the truth are going to be in each one of you. That's why I go. And Jesus even prayed to God and said, the words that you gave me, I gave to them. They have them now. They're in your mouth. They're in your voice. They're where you are. And that doesn't mean generic humanity. That there's no such thing as generic human. It means in you, who you are, who God created you to be. That means in the way that you have gender or not, in the way that you have sexuality or not, in the way that you are able-bodied or not able-bodied, in the way that your age has influenced you and your generation has influenced you, in the way that you were raised, in the things that you love, in the things that you hate, in the pet peeves that you have, in the skills and the talents that you have, in your life experience that gives you a unique and powerful way to speak. God is speaking in truth and power in each one of those things. And that when we come together to pray, In each of who we are as a human being, God speaks in power and truth. Now, I'm not going to go and say that that means that the institutional church is automatically exactly equated with the body of Christ, because you and I know the institutional church has messed up sometimes, right? Both your denomination and my denomination and the church that came before us and every church and institutions messed up, and individuals messed up, right? Like, I don't want to discount the fact that lots of us walk around with knowing there are mistakes that the church has made and knowing individuals in the church have made them. But there's something about when we get together to pray, we get together to read Scripture, and we get together to share that meal, and we get together to tell the truth about who we are. And that includes the voices that are really hard to hear. That includes the voices yelling from outside the church, hey, but you forgot about this life experience that I have that is awful and hard, and you're ignoring it, and you have to hear it. God's speaking in that. That's the voice of the prophets, right? God showing up in spirit and power and truth, saying, we all together, in who I created you to be, will be my witnesses to the end of the earth, spreading my love and my glory. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.